Our learning goal for today is to be able to understand the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination. So to start with, let's do some quick quiz and you will only get 10 seconds to answer each question. Do not try to pause the video and answer them. The first question is, in which pollination does the flower have strong filament? Option A, wind pollination. Option B, insect pollination. The answer is B. Second question, where is pollen produced? Option A, stigma. Option B, filament. Option C, anther. The answer is C. Question number 3. In which pollination a lot of pollen is produced? Option A, wind pollination. Option B, insect pollination. The answer is A. Question number 4. What is meant by pollination? Option A, the transfer of anther to stigma. Option B, the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma. Option C, the transfer of pollen from stigma to anther. The answer is B. The last question, question number 5. What attracts insect to come in a flower? Option A, petal. Option B, sepal. Option C, stamen. The answer is A. Let's give some grades. 5 out of 5 is equals to excellent. If you get 4 out of 5 is well done. If you get 3 out of 5 is good, and if you get less than 3 is a fail. Now let's remind you what is pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma. Let's look at it closely. So suppose the red dots are pollen. So when these red dots or the pollen moves from the anther to the stigma, it is known as pollination. So I hope you understand what is pollination. Now the question is, what is self-pollination and what is cross-pollination? Self-pollination means pollination happens in the same flower. That means pollen is produced inside the anther and those pollens are transferred to the stigma of the same flower. As you can see, the transformation is in the same flower. Now let's talk about cross-pollination. Cross-pollination happens in between the flowers. For example, the flower on the left hand side is producing pollen inside the anther. As you can see, the red dots appearing on the flower of the left hand side are the pollens. When this pollen move from the anther to the stigma of the right hand side flower is known as cross-pollination. Now pollens cannot move by itself. It needs help to move from the anther to the stigma either in self-pollination or in cross-pollination. So what helps pollen to move from anther to the stigma? Obviously, the answer is by the help of insect. So insect comes to the flower to collect honey, and then as they go they pick up some pollen with them and carry them to another flower, or it may carry to the stigma of the same flower, and therefore this type of pollination is known as insect pollination. Not just that, the transfer of pollen can also happen by the help of wind. When wind blows, it can make the pollen to transfer from the anther to the another flower. This is known as wind pollination.